Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to SmartVault's product demo webinar for request docs. I wanted to thank you all for joining in on this group demo. And this session is brought to you by me, Daniel Fritz, our Director of Products. I'm going to be your presenter today, along with Ashlyn from our marketing department is going to be in the background answering any of the questions, answering the chat. So make sure to put in all that information. I know a lot of you guys have been on a lot of webinars. Just as a quick reminder, over there on the right side of the screen, you have an option for questions and the chat as well. So let's talk a little bit about the agenda today. I'm going to focus a lot on the actual demonstrations, but we're going to have a little introduction about what is SmartVault, what do we do, and why, and who is going to be utilizing us. Then we're going to dive very deeply into the request docs functionality and features, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up for you guys in a quick Q&A session, and for you guys to see any of the personalized workflows that you guys are looking for. So let's dive right in. Let me jump over here to my screen. So I'm going to be demonstrating this in a couple different screens. This one is going to utilize our primary admin screen, one of what we call internally a firm user. So along that left side navigation, you see I have home, viewing my files and folders, bulk sending files. If you're an Accountant Pro account, the request docs, which is what we're going to be focusing a lot, and then your client management area, and where you can manage all of your different employees so that you and your staff members can have access to SmartVault. In the center here, we have some actions such as adding a client. These are really common actions that you're going to be taking on a day in, day out basis, setting up those folder templates, installing our Windows desktop client to utilize our connected desktop technology. So let's talk about a generalization of what SmartVault does. So we are a secure bank level security document storage and sharing solution. So at the end of the day, you add clients in, you set up folder templates to decide what folders they have certain permissions, such as creating, uploading, and downloading information that you're providing to them. And what you will do is you will invite them. They have access, they authenticate their own applications, and they have their own portal that they view everything that's very customized to them. Now you can send them document requests via our email capture application, or you can utilize the request docs, which is what we're going to focus on today. So to jump in, let's go ahead and just dive into client management. This is where you're essentially going to start. Across the top, I have a couple of different tabs. It's going to be talking about who has access, who's been invited, not inviting, whose email is missing. And then in the client realm, I have all of my different clients listed here, an ability to go into their vault, what their individual status is, and their email address and their phone of the primary contact. Now I can search through my clients if I'm looking for certain specifics. So I'm probably in this account. I have a couple different Fritzes in here, as you can see. I can utilize that. And also when you're on this screen, you can see their ID. So any of my accountants out here that are utilizing Lacert or Pro Series, when that gets pulled over from our integration with Lacert, it's going to pull it directly over, and you're going to see that ID populate on this main page. Makes it really easy and simplistic for you to manage with that. So let's dive in and just create a quick client. So you have two options. You can either do a person, like just an everyday individual if you're going to do their taxes, or you also have an entity. So this is going to be more of like a business or an organization. You can put in the client ID. So in this case, I'm just going to say SmartVault, and we are Suite 305 here. And I'm just going to say, hey, let's put this in for Smart 305 is the name of my company. I can put in an email address. I'm going to cheat and utilize one that I will be able to identify quickly. Corporate one. And then I could put in a phone number there. Now we have a various ways of qualifying what type of entity this is. So you'll see here my dropdown, I've got partnerships, S corps, fiduciaries, and I also have this plus option here. So here I can actually customize any custom types of clients. So if you have a very specific type of work that you're going to be working with, then you can definitely put those in, things like probate. Hey, maybe I focus on real estate, and you can qualify the entities in that way. Now, because I've added an email and a phone number, I have the ability to go into this more actions realm. So one of the things that we've added the capability of doing is directly inviting the client right away. So when you create this client, you're probably working with or talking with a potential client or a new client, and you want to go ahead and get them invited as quickly as possible. So you can choose to go ahead and invite that client. So it will save the client when I take this action and go ahead and send that, hey, invitation email to Smart 305. You're going to gain access to those folders of which I've already set the permissions on. Now we can take that a step further and we can go ahead and add an engagement here. In SmartVault terminology, an engagement is kind of like a project, if you will, or an interaction. If you're doing somebody's taxes, you're going to see the tax engagement and then followed by a certain year. So we have things such as wealth management, we have accounting services, financial services, taxes, and we also have some that are not dictated based upon time. We have what are called projects, and those are just naming it independently. So if you're a bank or another, say, a wealth management, and you're just working on like, hey, we want to jump in and focus on a certain area, you can name that project whatever you'd like. And lastly, you can send this request doc. Now we're going to dive into that in just a second, but you could go ahead and proceed to those and all of these actions would be taken. I don't want to take those actions quite yet. I'm going to go ahead and ease you guys in and show you exactly what we're doing in each of these cases. So I'm going to go ahead and save this client and just remember that we're using Smart 305. And so what that'll bring me in here, I can see all the relevant information, my contact information, the contacts that are there. And if I need to add a couple contacts in here, we'll go ahead and just add, Ashlyn. If I could capitalize here. And I can either add in the email or the phone number. But in this case, I just want to just document that Ashlyn's going to be one of my clients. So now you see that Ashlyn Bowles, and any information, whether or not to use the primary, et cetera, will be populated. Over here, I can see any of those engagements that I was talking about. Likewise with projects. Remember, our big difference there is that projects aren't set to a certain time frame. They're not a 2021, 2022, 2020 type thing. And then as we get to this other area, the send tax returns, those are more specific to our accounting customers. You as a actual user of SmartVault can assign some of your employees to these people. So as you're going through this process, you can say, hey, I want to go ahead and assign. I'm just going to grab Marie and say, yes, I need her to be the firm manager here. And that's fantastic. And so then I can clearly see which of my clients are assigned to these people. So Marie, in this case, is the firm manager of Smart 305, this client. So all of that's good. All of the things that I have done is to create this client. And when you create a client within SmartVault, you're actually utilizing our folder structures to automatically generate their folder structure. So I'm going to jump in and view their vault directly from here, and I can see some Smart 305. I didn't come in here and spend time and create all these folders. SmartVault does that for you. That's our automated folder structure deployment. And you can see here, I've got correspondence folders, general annual engagements, internal bank documents, tax returns. You have complete control over how many. You have complete control over what goes into these. And you also have the control over which of these are actually shared, which we will talk about in just a few minutes. So now that I've got all of these, say I want to go ahead and just dive in and create some engagements for this client, but I need to get documents with part of that engagement. So I'm going to dive over to the request docs area. So here you see tons of things that I've already requested documents. I have a lot of different statuses. I have anything from complete, sent on certain dates, ones that are active. So Michael Babb is working on an active piece right here. I have the ability to send reminders. And at any time, I can always review these. As you'll see, regardless of what status that they're in, I can review those individual engagements, or excuse me, those individual request docs. Now, how does request docs work? Well, what we do is we utilize templates. So I'm going to dive into the settings here, and we're just going to, together on this webinar, we're going to create a new template. And so we're just going to create our wonderful webinar template, and you can provide them some instructions. I'm going to put this in all caps just so that you guys can see where that's going to transfer as we go. You can link this into certain types of engagements, and you can decide who gets notified. So I'm going to kick this to administrators. And just for today, we're going to do a standard tax engagement. Now, I have some that are coming out of the box that are real easy to manipulate and utilize. And this is how easy it is. So I've got webinar template. I've got my instructions listed here. I see that tax engagement. And what we're going to jump in is I'm going to go ahead and start adding file request. So in this, we'll probably need some W-2s. We'll check out the chat. Somebody send in a couple chats, see if we can't find a couple of documents that we need. I see, okay, yes, 1099s, excellent. We get the INTs there. Interesting. Yes, you can add in some 8878s or last year's 8878s if you wanted to. You could also add any, documents that you uploaded. So within SmartVault, you can provide public documents, and you can upload and provide organizers or any other guidance documents to your users. Now you can put in any of those, and I'm gonna kind of keep it simple with 3, and I'm gonna say definitely need that W-2, definitely need the 1099, but in this last case, last year's, we'll just do another, like I say, like a 1095. And I won't say that I need that one as required. So we can go ahead and save these changes. And what that does is it creates a template. So anytime I utilize that template, the webinar here, those are the 3 questions that get asked. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of how in depth this can really dive into, as you can see, this is the one that is coming out of the box. You have a couple required, all the, W2G from your gambling winnings, the 1099 miscellaneous, the 1099Q, all your different K1s, 1098s and stuff like that. You can absolutely add and edit on top of these as well. So diving back over to request docs, we're going to continue utilizing that Suite 105. So I simply click the request docs, and I'm going to choose that client. So the Smart 305 with my email address here. I'm going to choose this template. We've got our webinar template that you can see here. These are the couple ones that are required. And then we can set up an engagement. It's already going to link because we set that up in the template section. We're going to say tax engagement, and we're just going to go ahead and do it for 2022. Now, I had not invited this person on purpose. And the reason why I didn't do that during the more actions phase is because that is actually accomplished during this stage as well. So you don't have to go and create this tax engagement. It's going to create it for you. So as you're going through this, you don't have to say, oh, have I created the tax engagement or not? SmartVault is smart enough to know whether or not that engagement is already in existence. And in order to have somebody send documents to you, they also have to be invited, which is another manual process within SmartVault. If you just wanted to give them access without using request docs, you have to go and manually do that. However, utilizing request docs kills both those birds with the same stone, because you're going to create the engagement folder structure, and then you are going to go ahead and send that invitation over to this user. So let's go ahead. If you wanted to do this one-off, you can send the custom message. Important here, if I'm going to do a webinar template for, say, a bunch of my clients, if I'm assigned to certain users, maybe I wanted to send it to one of the Fritzes here. You can see it's just like very similar to Outlook, where you just kind of choose all of the different contacts here. But I'm just, for the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to stick to the Smart 305 that I just created. So as I hit send request, what you'll see is I've got a check mark. If there was a missing email or anything like that, I would be told like, hey, you're missing these certain areas. And what you're going to notice is right up here on top, let's see, we can go ahead and search for that. So I can say Smart 305, here it is. I've got a webinar template for the tax engagement of 2022, and I could go ahead and send reminders. Now, let's go ahead and see what this looks like on the other side now. So if I go back to my client management, and I'm again going to search for my Smart 305. There we go. And I'm going to dive into, oops, excuse me. There we go. Sorry about that. My headset decided to turn off on me. So jumping in to Smart 305 at this point. So jumping into Smart 305, I can now view their vault, and I can also go into my engagements, and now I see that they have a tax engagement for 2022, and I can actually utilize this icon to go directly to that section within their folder structure. So instead of trying to go through the entire tree, I can be directed to this specific area. And now you'll notice that I have new icons in existence here. Now, I didn't point this out earlier, but we do have a shared folder icon indicated that's going to clearly show to you that, hey, in this tax year 22 folder, I've got the client organizer, the client source documents, the returns, and the request docs. All of these have this shared folder indicator on the folder, and that's telling me as a user that these are the 4 different folders that a client will be able to see. The source documents, tax plan reports, and tax returns themselves, those are all hidden in there from the guest user, but they are internal to me and my practice. So all of that is where you have control over that visibility, that permission, so that you can have internal documents simultaneously with a shared client portal. That way, SmartVault becomes that central document repository. Now, what I'm going to do is on a second screen real quick, because I sent that invitation email over, I'm going to sign in as this Smart 305 user. So give me just a second and I'll pull up what that looks like. All right, I'm going to pull over my personal email here and we're going to see what that experience is for your client. So the vault has been shared with me, and you can see that I had a request for documents. So I'm going to jump into Tyson and Associates, and I'm going to go ahead and activate this account. It's really important to note that your clients can actually do this. If they get the email on their phone, they can actually go through this process from their phone. And so I'm going to put in my name here, Daniel Fritz, and put in my phone number. And we're going to put in a quick password. So this is all that's required for them to set up. This is the process that they will see. They agree. And they're going to go ahead and create that user. Because this is kind of a mouthful, I'm going to copy it. And we employ two-factor authentication here as well. So as I put this in, it's very likely that this guest user of mine that I just created is going to get 2FA'd. And exactly as I expected, go back to my email. You can utilize both email and text for 2FA with SmartVault. So kind of up to the user at that point. You guys can also enforce it internally with your own teams and have the 2FAs. So diving in, remember, I'm logging in as one of your clients. So you'll see it looks similar, but a little bit different. And the big area right here in the center of the screen, quickly upload your documents. I have this requested documents section, or upload the individual documents. This is also where they can go and view the files and folders that they have access to. So I've got access to Smart 305. And same principle here is you can see the shared folder icons. I know that we have one internally for emails that is not publicly shown. I can dive into the tax returns, see that tax year 2022, and out of the 7 that we saw previously, I only see those 4 that I had access to. On this left navigation pane, they also have access to the files exchange. These are the 2 locations, and it clearly gives you a location of where that's at, where they can upload those files. They can actually click into this and dive into that same folder structure that I was just showing. But most importantly, if they're coming from this homepage, they can hit this requested documents. And that there's that instructions that I wrote in all caps there, just so you guys can see where that's translating. And as I see here, I've got a couple required here. I've got the W-2, I've got the 1099, and then last year's 1095. Notice at the top, up here in the top right, this submit button, I cannot click. Your clients cannot submit anything to you until they have satisfied all of the required fields. Now, what happens if they didn't have a 1099 INT? Well, first and foremost, we'd probably question why they're having you do taxes if they weren't that complicated. But if that is the case, maybe they don't have K1s, maybe there's a few other things that they don't have. We actually have a this does not apply option. So if I click that, you'll see that this doesn't apply. And for the W-2, I can go ahead and grab one of my files over here. Go into my testing tax docs. I've got a W-2 over here somewhere. And I think it's this one right here. That's a 1099 template. We'll just go with it for now. And you'll see that now this one is done. But a really important caveat here, I could actually choose a second file if I wanted to. Say I have my wife's W-2. I can jump that one in there. You can add as many of these documents to a single question as you would like. And you can also add a comment. So as I add that, all of this, I have not hit submit yet. What we're going to do is we're going to go back over to our admin's experience. So this is the same admin that just like you guys as users were earlier. We can go into the client management realm, or excuse me, the request docs realm, and we can find the Smart 305 one that we're working with. So we'll do Smart 305. You'll notice this no longer has the day's date. It's showing as active. I can send a reminder to them, but most importantly, I can review. Now remember, this has not been submitted by them, and I can clearly see that they have these two added. There's the add a comment that the person put in, and I said that the 1099 does not apply. So in this vein, I'm able to upload these and see where my clients are at in whatever documents I'm requesting. This can be for loan processing. This can be for, in my example, taxes. This can be for anything that you need to gather documents from. You can see that in real time. I can also jump in here, last year's 1095. You can put in anything into the comments. You can upload various files. Anything that you need to do, you can have complete control over what all of these terminologies say. So if you want to say W-2s, or you can be very specific and say, I'm looking for your W-2s. You should have gotten these in the mail from your employer by the end of January. So you can completely control, because it's a free text field. Now, once the guest user is completed with all of the required areas, the submit button is now selectable. Now, this only goes to those required fields, so just kind of keep an eye on that. I'm going to say that, hey, this actually does apply, and you'll notice that submit button has been de-illuminated, and that's really key because you don't want to get partial information. A lot of times we see people just chasing after documents, looking for those things, and this is where SmartVault really shines, is because you can make sure that these people are giving you all the documents you need the first time. So let's go ahead and hit submit. And what you'll see, that status is going to change to submitted. It's very clean for your clients. You can show completed or not. That way they always have the ones that are open and needing to be submitted up at the top. So let's dive back into the firm side, the admin side's user experience. So here, going back, that same Smart 305, let's do a quick search for Smart here. You can see that it's now submitted. Now notice that I'm no longer reminding them to do anything. It's now an action on me to review this. So as I jump in and review this, I now have this option for marking this done. As I scroll through, I can click into any of these. It's going to open it up in a new tab. And here my preview is going to generate. There is this, in this case, it's a Schedule 2 at 1040. So here's my 2019 copy of that. I can say, okay, that's great. And I just scroll down. So imagine having 15, 16 of these questions coming down. You're able to go through, review, and say at the very end, okay, yes, this one, I'm ready to mark this as done. But before we do that, I want to kind of talk and work through and say like, hey, I'm going to receive an email. So when that guest user clicks submit, me as that admin user that sent them the request doc is going to get an email notification that says, hey, Smart 305 has actually submitted their request doc. So you can set up an email filter, and that's your to-do list every single morning. I want to see every single one of those where something has been submitted for me. You can set that up on the assigned users. You can set that up as an account employee. However you want to slice and dice that, you can actually move that around, forward those emails to the appropriate people, to where when your employees come in the morning, they're not going client by client that they work with. They are going off of a actionable list of, these are my clients that I have sent documents to, they're who I'm expecting documents from, and then I can see that. So once you've done that, you can say, I'm going to mark this as done and move on forward. So as I come back, you can see in my request docs, I can see that the status is now complete. Let's just, for completeness, we'll take a look at Smart 305. Excellent. So that kind of gives us a overview of request docs. So at this point, what I would do is I would open up Lacert or process the taxes, open up my quoting tool. Now that I have the relevant information, I've gathered those documents, and now I'm going to utilize them in my day-to-day workflow. So now let's jump in and see if there are any questions that we have that have come up so far. All righty. Ashlyn, let me see here. Yep, we added two-factor authentication is a great question here. So can you enable it for your teams? Absolutely. We have security tools that are going to be forcing people to utilize that. Let's see, what happens if yes, we answered this one a few seconds ago. If a client doesn't fill out the request docs form, can I send those reminders? Absolutely. Let's just show that one more time. As I look at request docs, here you see myself a couple times sent it back in December. I could go ahead and hover over and hit send reminder, and that's going to be an automated email that's reminding them, hey, you have pending stuff. You can not only do that with someone that hasn't touched it yet, but someone like this person, Michael Babb, is still in the middle of doing it. I can send them a reminder. Let's see. So I know we've talked through this. Yes, I see someone here is a loan processor. A great way to utilize this, I'm going to dive into my templates to kind of go through this one more time. We've got some loans in here. So for example, a boat loan or a car loan. Let's go ahead and edit that. So you might want your driver's license, your W-2, the proof of insurance, and please add a comment if you have a new bank account information that you're going to need for this loan. Maybe you need references, maybe you need a various other pieces of information. You guys can completely have control over adding that. So that's just one example of a different way that you can utilize request docs for something other than accounting. That's a great question. And let's see, okay, I think we doubled up on that one. Yes, this is how you would create a new template. We kind of went through that. Let's see, I see here, Terry asked, how does this work when sending tax organizers out to clients? Okay, that's a fantastic question. So within Lacert, you can generate the organizers that are going to be tagged into certain folders. And in your instructions here, one of the ways that you can do this is really up to you guys. Print out those organizers, get them into the hands of your clients, and then send them a request docs and just tell them, hey, check out your organizer. And then you can add a very generic question at the end. So let me kind of step back. You want to make these templates as generic as possible, and so that you don't have to make a million templates. Now, granted, that doesn't take very much time, as we've shown here, but if you can get 80 or 90% of your clients with the same generalized questions, then that's going to save you tons of time. Now, the last question are at the bottom, and you can you can add this into the instructions. You can talk to them. At the very end, it might say like, hey, any other documents that are not explicitly listed but are listed in your organizer, you might want to include some instructions like that. And we have a lot of different ways that you can do it. So when you send those organizers, that's really helpful. Create a generic template with a last one, because remember, you can upload as many documents onto these questions as possible or as you want. This allows that flexibility. And that's really, really key. So that makes it really easy. So you still want to use your organizers, and then definitely add those options for them to add anything that should be included from your organizer into the request docs. Now, let's see, does this come onto my plan? Well, as long as you have clients as an option to choose when I navigate here to the left side menu, as long as I see clients there, you will have access to request docs. We do, if you are on an older tax prep plan, you can upgrade up to the Accounting Pro. That will get you in there. All right, let me take a look at some of these other questions that we're seeing. All right, we're going to try to get everybody's questions, but we do have document management experts here at SmartVault to help you. Definitely, we're going to put a link into the chat, and that's going to allow you to schedule a demo, talk to these guys. These guys are awesome. I work with them hand in hand every day. Let's see, that's a great piece. Let's see, are there any types of documents that are not eligible to send via SmartVault? There are a few. So when it comes to security, we want to make sure that you guys are as safe as possible. So things like executable files are not allowed within SmartVault. Definitely, there are a couple of those that are risk-prone type documents, but all in all, you're able to upload anything all the way up to 2 gigs. We have unlimited storage here, so you're not worrying about like, oh man, do I have enough storage? And it looks like we are coming up on time. If we didn't get to your question, excuse me, want to make sure that you schedule that demo, talk to these document specialists, and thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to join us on this webinar. So thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful day.